I'm sitting here looking at page 7 of an accountant's report, and my hands won't stop shaking. Not because of what's on page 7. Because of what's on page 1. It's October. It's 7 p.m. I'm 23 years old, and I just found out that my parents have been taking $1,800 from my account every single month for the last 7 years. Not borrowing. Taking. Like it was theirs. And the worst part? I never asked them to stop. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up, because if I don't tell this right, none of it makes sense. None of it will sound real, and what happened after that report came out was the most real thing that's ever happened to me. My mom used to say this thing when I was younger. She'd say it when I'd ask for something, new shoes, money for a school trip, whatever. She'd look at me with this really calm face and say, "Emma, family means you contribute when you're able." Not angry. Not lecturing. Just stating a fact. Like gravity. I never questioned it. I'm Emma. I'm 23. I'm sitting in an apartment that isn't quite mine yet, with a mortgage pre-approval letter that suddenly means nothing, holding a financial report that my accountant printed out last Thursday and handed to me across her desk with this look on her face, not pity, but something close to it. The kind of look that means she's seen this before. The kind of look that means she knows what's about to happen next. Let me start earlier. Let me actually start where this begins, not where it explodes. I grew up in a normal house. Not rich. Not poor. Normal. My parents had jobs. My dad worked in sales, always traveling, always tired when he came home. My mom was in HR, which meant she knew how to talk to people in a way that made them agree with her without really understanding they were doing it. It was a skill, honestly. I watched her use it for years. I have an older brother, Michael. He's 26. We were never close growing up, he was always kind of doing his own thing, moved out when I was 16. I don't think I realized then how far away he actually was living. Not the miles. The distance. Our house was quiet. Clean. There weren't fights or screaming or anything like that. There were expectations. There was this baseline of responsibility. That's the word my parents used all the time. Responsibility. Like it was the most important thing in the world. When I was 18, I got my first job. Retail. Terrible job, but it was mine. I made maybe $1,200 a month, which felt like so much money at the time. I remember opening a bank account. I remember the feeling of putting my paycheck in and watching the number grow. And then, about a month in, my mom asked me to contribute to household bills. She didn't ask. That's not the right word. She told me. But gently. The way she always told me things. She said, $400 a month should cover your portion of utilities and groceries. I was 18. I didn't know how much utilities actually cost. I didn't know if that was fair or unfair. I just knew that my mom had said it, and when my mom said something, you did it. So I did. That was the first month. I remember looking at my bank account after that transfer and feeling this weird combination of things, proud that I was helping, but also, I don't know. Empty. But not in a sad way. In a normal way. Like this was just what growing up was. Then I moved out. I was 19. I got a better job, administrative work at a law firm. Still not great money, but stable. And my parents sat me down and told me that the contribution would need to be higher now. I could afford it now. That's what they said. You can afford it now, Emma. And I could. Not easily, but I could. So they said $1,200 a month. Then, 2 years later, when I got promoted and started making decent money, it went to $1,800. Every single month. For 7 years. I never questioned it because I loved my parents. Because they had raised me. Because my mom said family means you contribute, and I had internalized that so deeply that it didn't feel like a choice anymore. It felt like an obligation. It felt like love. Until my accountant asked me one question that I couldn't answer. That's where we need to start. The accountant's name is Sharon. She's in her 50s, organized in that way that makes you realize your own life is chaos, and she doesn't smile much, but when she does, you trust it completely. I went to see her because I was trying to get pre-approved for a mortgage. I'd been saving, or so I thought, and there was this condo in a neighborhood I liked. Nothing fancy. Just something that would be mine. A place where I could stop paying rent to a landlord and start building actual equity. I'd been thinking about it for a year. Just thinking. Not seriously pursuing it. But then my friend Jess got pre-approved for hers, and suddenly it felt real. Suddenly it felt like something I should be doing too. So I made an appointment with Sharon. I brought all my documents. Tax returns. Pay stubs. Bank statements. The whole thing. I was nervous, but in the good way, the way you're nervous before something exciting happens. I was imagining what it would feel like to have my own place. To sign papers. To be an adult in that official, undeniable way. Sharon looked at everything. She made notes. She asked questions about my job stability, my debts, my savings patterns. All normal questions. All things I expected. And then she asked me about the monthly transfers. Emma, she said, looking at my bank statements, can you explain these recurring $1,800 transfers to your parents' account? I remember the exact feeling. It was like someone had taken the ground out from under me, but I was still standing. The world hadn't changed. I had just realized I was floating. Oh, I said. That's family contribution. It's for household stuff. She looked up from the papers. For household stuff that you don't live in? And that's when it hit me. That's when I actually heard the words I'd been saying for 7 years and realized they didn't make any sense. I don't live with my parents. I haven't since I was 19. I have my own apartment. My own utilities. My own groceries. I pay my own rent. I've been paying my own everything for 7 years. And during all of those 7 years, I've been sending my parents $1,800 a month. That's $151,200. I did the math later. Sat at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning and did it on a calculator because I couldn't trust my brain to do it right. $1,800 times 12 months times 7 years. $151,200. In the moment, though, I just stared at Sharon. I guess I never thought about it like that, I said. Sharon set down her pen. She had this expression on her face, not judgment, but something heavier. Recognition. Like she'd seen this script before and knew where it was going. How much do you know about what this money goes toward? She asked. It's for the house, I said immediately. Bills. Maintenance. My mom mentioned the roof needed work a few years ago. And property taxes are expensive. Did your parents provide you with an accounting of what they use it for? I opened my mouth. Closed it. No, I said. Have you ever asked? No. Why not? And I couldn't answer her. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because the answer made me sound stupid. The answer was, because it never occurred to me that I could. Because asking my parents for an explanation of what they did with the money felt like accusing them. Because somewhere deep down, I knew that if I asked too many questions, they would tell me I was being ungrateful. So I didn't ask. Sharon pulled out a calculator. Over the last 7 years, you've transferred approximately $151,200 to your parents. Your current savings are $34,000. You have $12,000 in student loans remaining. Your pre-approval threshold for a mortgage, given your income, should be around $280,000 to $320,000. But with your current debt-to-income ratio and your liquid savings, you're looking at closer to $180,000 maximum. And that's assuming nothing changes with your income. She paused. That's a significant gap, she said quietly. Between where you should be and where you actually are. There was this moment, this small, specific moment, where I felt something shift inside me. Not anger yet. Confusion. A kind of vertigo. What if I stopped paying them? I asked. Sharon leaned back in her chair. That's the right question, she said. But before we answer it, I need you to understand something. I'm going to need to prepare a full financial analysis. And once I do that, you're going to see exactly where your money went. And after that, well, after that, you'll have to decide what you want to do about it. She opened her calendar. Can you come back next Thursday? I said yes. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember driving home. I just remember the feeling of falling and not knowing when I was going to hit the ground. The week between that appointment and the next one was the longest week of my life. I couldn't focus at work. I'd be typing an email and suddenly realize I'd written the same sentence 3 times. My boss asked if I was feeling okay. I told her I was fine. I wasn't fine. I kept doing the math in my head. Over and over. $1,800 times 12. Times 7. $151,200. It didn't get smaller no matter how many times I calculated it. I didn't tell anyone. Not Jess. Not Michael. Definitely not my parents. I just sat with it. I sat with it like it was a secret I had to keep from myself. The thing is, my parents had never acted like they were taking advantage of me. That's what made it so hard to think about. My dad still called me on Sundays to ask how my week was. My mom still texted me articles about things she thought I'd be interested in. They sent me birthday money. They asked me to come over for dinner. It was all normal. It was all loving. So either I was wrong about what was happening, or they were doing something terrible while still being nice to me, which somehow felt worse. I tried to remember if there had been signs. Things I missed. Things I should have questioned. There was one thing. About 3 years ago, my parents had taken a trip. A real trip, 2 weeks in Europe. They'd shown me pictures when they got back. Italy, France, Greece. They looked happy. They looked relaxed in a way I'd never seen them look before. I remembered my mom mentioning it casually. We figured we'd saved enough, she'd said, and I'd just smiled and nodded. But when was that? When had they saved enough? Because they were getting $1,800 from me every month. They had been for 4 years at that point. My dad had also bought a new truck about 5 years ago. A really nice one. I remember he'd seemed almost embarrassed about it when I asked. Well, the old one was falling apart, he'd said, but it was definitely new. Definitely nice. I'd never connected those things. The trip. The truck. The renovations to the kitchen they'd mentioned doing 2 years ago. All of that was happening while I was sending them $1,800 a month. There's this weird thing that happens when you start seeing things you didn't see before. It's like someone turned on a light in a room you've been walking through in the dark, and suddenly you can see all the furniture you've been bumping into. I kept almost calling my mom to ask her directly. But every time I picked up the phone, I couldn't do it. Because what if there was a good explanation? What if there was something I didn't understand? And if I accused her of something and I was wrong, that would be bad. So I waited. Thursday came. I went back to Sharon's office, and this time my hands were shaking when I walked in. She had a folder on her desk. A thick one. She opened it up and turned it toward me, but she didn't let go of it. She was holding it like she was about to show me something I couldn't unsee. I pulled your statements for the full 7 years, she said. I cross-referenced them with your parents' income. I got that from the tax returns you mentioned they did their taxes at your house. And I looked at property tax records for their address. She turned to the first page of her analysis. The monthly transfers you've been making to your parents total $151,200 over 7 years. That's accurate to what we calculated before. But here's what I found: your parents' income during that period averaged about $95,000 a year, combined. Property taxes on their house are approximately $480 a month. Utilities for a house that size run about $200 to $250 a month, depending on the season. Maintenance and repairs, averaged out over 7 years, would be maybe $150 a month if we're being generous. She pointed to a number on the page. That's $830 per month. Maximum. For everything you told me the money was for. I stared at the number. What about the roof? I asked quietly. My mom said the roof needed work. Did she provide you with a bill? An invoice? No. Did you ever see a roofing company truck at the house? I thought about it. I don't remember. That's because it probably didn't happen, Sharon said, and there was something in her voice that wasn't unkind, but it was firm. Emma, I'm going to show you something. And I want you to understand that I'm showing you this as your accountant, not as someone judging your parents. But you need to see this. She pulled out another page. This one had a graph on it. A line graph that showed the balance in my parents' savings account over time. In 7 years, it had gone from $45,000 to $187,000. I couldn't breathe right for a second. That's their savings account? I asked. One of them. I only have what I could deduce from your transfers and their tax returns. There could be more accounts. But based on the trajectory, your parents have been depositing your money into savings while their actual household expenses have remained stable. The room went very quiet. They've been saving my money, I said. Not a question. A statement I was testing out to see if it was true. Yes, Sharon said. They have. I remember looking at that graph for a long time. Just staring at the line going up, up, up. Steady and consistent. Like a heartbeat that never faltered. What do I do? I asked. But Sharon didn't answer right away. Instead, she asked me a question. Before we talk about what to do, I need to know, have you ever told your parents that you wanted to stop paying them? No. Why not? Because I thought it was helping them. And now? I looked at the graph again. At the line going up. Now I think I've been helping them save for retirement while I can't even afford a house. Sharon nodded like I'd finally said something important. Which, I guess, I had. Then we need to talk about your options, she said. And you're not going to like all of them. Sharon walked me through it slowly, like she was explaining something fragile that could break if she moved too fast. The legal options. The financial options. The family options, which, she made clear, weren't really options at all. They were just things that might happen no matter what I chose to do. If you want to pursue this formally, she said, we'd be looking at a civil suit. You have documentation of the transfers. You have proof of intent, the consistency, the amount relative to their expenses. You could argue unjust enrichment. Coercion, potentially, depending on how you frame the family pressure. She said it like it was a simple thing. Like suing your parents was just another line item on a financial plan. But, she continued, that comes with consequences. Family consequences. They will lawyer up. They will fight it. And they will tell you, and probably tell everyone else, that you're being ungrateful. That you're attacking them. That you never loved them the way they loved you. She looked at me over her glasses. They will weaponize love, she said. And it will hurt. I felt something crack inside my chest when she said that. There's another option, Sharon continued. You could confront them privately. Ask for the money back. See if they'll return it voluntarily. They won't, I said immediately. I didn't even have to think about it. I just knew. You might be surprised, Sharon said. But she didn't sound like she believed it either. I went home that night and I sat on my couch in the dark for 3 hours. Just sat there. Not crying. Not thinking. Just existing in the space between who I thought my parents were and who they actually were. Because that's what this was. It wasn't just about money. Money was the symptom. The real thing was that my parents, the people who raised me, who told me about responsibility and family contribution, had been lying to me. Deliberately. For 7 years. They hadn't made a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. My mom didn't suddenly realize the roof didn't actually need work. This was intentional. This was planned. This was my parents looking at their daughter and deciding that her future was less important than their savings account. And I had let them. That's the part that made me sick. I had let them. I had asked them questions, not many, but some, and I had accepted their vague answers. I had seen them go on vacations and buy new trucks and renovate their kitchen, and I had never once said, "Wait, that doesn't add up." I had been so eager to be a good daughter. So eager to show them I was responsible. So eager to be the person they told me to be, that I had walked myself straight into this. Around midnight, I texted Michael. "Are you awake?" He responded immediately. "Yeah. You okay? Can we talk tomorrow? Like actually talk? What's going on?" And I almost told him right then. I almost spilled the whole thing through text message like a broken dam. But I stopped myself. Because this was the kind of conversation that needed to happen in person. This was the kind of conversation where you needed to see someone's face and know whether they already knew. Because that's what I suddenly wondered. Did Michael know? Had our parents been taking from him too? And if so, why hadn't he said anything? He called me the next morning before work. "Okay, talk to me," he said. "What's wrong?" So I told him. I told him about Sharon. I told him about the $151,200. I told him about the graph. I told him about the roof that probably never needed work. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Shit," he said finally. "Did they do this to you?" I asked. "When you were living with them?" Another silence. "Not like that," he said slowly. "But yeah. They did. Not $1,800 a month, but, yeah. They asked me for money when I first started working. Rent, they said. Contribution. The whole thing. But I only did it for like 8 months before I moved out and I just stopped. I blocked their number for a while, actually, until they stopped asking." "You blocked their number?" "Emma, I was 22 and angry. I didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with their manipulation. I just cut it off." Manipulation. That was a word I hadn't let myself use yet. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because I didn't want to poison your relationship with them," he said. "I know that sounds stupid now, but I thought maybe it was just them being weird, and I thought if you had a better relationship with them than I did, that would be good. I didn't realize they were still." He trailed off. "Still what?" "Still doing it," he finished. "Still taking money from you. I thought you knew what you were doing, Emma. I thought you'd figured it out and decided it was worth it, or something. I didn't know they were lying to you about what it was for." I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Something deeper. A kind of cold clarity. "I need to confront them," I said. "Okay," Michael said. "But you need to know something first." "What?" "Once you pull this thread, Emma, the whole thing unravels. You understand that, right? There's no going back to normal. Even if they apologize. Even if they give you the money back. Your relationship with them is never going to be the same." I thought about my parents. About my mom's face when she said family means you contribute. About my dad calling me on Sundays. About all of it being built on a foundation of lies. Maybe it shouldn't be the same, I said quietly. I called my parents on a Tuesday. Hi, honey, my mom said when she picked up. Is everything okay? You never call during the day. And I almost broke right there. Almost told her that no, everything was not okay, that everything had been not okay for 7 years and I was just now figuring it out. But I didn't. I kept my voice steady. I need to talk to you and Dad about something, I said. Can I come over on Sunday? There was a pause. Of course, she said. Is this about something serious? Yes, I said. After I hung up, I sat with that word for a long time. Serious. Like it was just one serious thing. Like it was a surface-level issue we could discuss over coffee and resolve. That Sunday, I drove to my parents' house, the house I'd been helping pay for without knowing it, and I brought something with me. Not the full report from Sharon. Just one page. The page with the graph. The one that showed their savings account balance going up and up and up. My dad was in the driveway when I pulled in. He was washing his truck, the nice one he'd bought 5 years ago, and he smiled when he saw me like he always did. Like I was still the daughter he'd raised to be responsible. To contribute. I almost smiled back. That's how deep the habit went. Inside, my mom had made snacks. She always did that. Some kind of cheese board, fruit, those little crackers she knew I liked. This performative version of family togetherness that felt obscene now that I knew the truth. We sat in the living room with the kitchen they'd renovated, and I didn't eat anything. So, my mom said, in that gentle way she had, "What did you want to talk about?" And I just came out with it. I saw an accountant last week, I said. I was trying to get pre-approved for a mortgage. And when she looked at my bank statements, she asked me about the $1,800 I send you every month. I watched my mom's face. Watched her expression shift from warm to careful. And I realized, I continued, that I've never actually asked you what that money is for. Not really. You told me it was for household expenses, the roof, utilities, property taxes. But then my accountant looked at your actual expenses, and the numbers don't match. My dad set down his coffee cup. Emma, he said, your mother and I have provided you with a home, an education, support. This is just a way for you to give back while you're able to. While I'm able to? I cut him off. I never cut my dad off. I felt my mom flinch. Dad, I'm not able to afford a house. I have $34,000 in savings. That's it. And you've taken $151,200 from me over the last 7 years. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that has weight. That's not fair, my mom said quietly. We've always been honest with you. And that's when I felt something snap. Not in a violent way. In a cold way. You told me the roof needed work, I said. Do you remember that? 3 years ago? The roof, my mom started. Did it actually need work? I asked. Or did you just need money? Emma, you're being disrespectful, my mom said. Her voice had changed. It had that edge to it now. The one that meant I was disappointing her. I don't care, I said, and I meant it. I want to know the truth. Did the roof need work? My parents exchanged a look. The kind of look that meant they were communicating without words. Deciding how to handle this. The roof was fine, my dad said finally. But that's not the point. Then what is the point? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, the point is that you lied to me. You took my money under false pretenses, and you've been saving it. I have the documentation. I have the proof. I pulled out the page from Sharon's report. The graph. I put it on the coffee table between us. This is your savings account balance, I said. It's gone up $142,000 in 7 years. Almost exactly matching what I've given you. My mom looked at the graph like it was a poisonous thing. We were trying to secure our retirement, she said, and her voice was smaller now. Your father's company has been unstable. We were scared. And that right there, that moment, was when I understood the full scope of what had happened. They hadn't stolen from me because they were evil. They had stolen from me because they were scared. And they had rationalized it. They had told themselves a story where taking their daughter's money was actually her contributing to the family. Where lying about what they needed it for was, what? Protecting me? Protecting themselves? You were scared, I repeated. So you took money from your daughter without telling her the truth about why. Emma, we love you, my mom said, and she was starting to cry now. This has nothing to do with how much we love you. But it does, I said, and I was surprised at how calm my voice was. Because if you loved me, you would have asked me. You would have been honest. You would have said, we're scared about retirement. Can you help? And maybe I would have said yes. But I would have known. I would have had a choice. My dad stood up. What do you want? He asked. Money? Is that what this is about? I want you to admit what you did, I said. I want you to stop lying about it. And then I'm going to decide what happens next. I stood up too. I'm going to hire a lawyer, I said. Not to punish you. But to figure out what my actual legal options are. And until I do that, I'm done sending you money. As of today, the transfers stop. My mom made a small sound, like I'd hurt her. You can't just, she started. I can, I said. And I am. I picked up the graph and walked toward the door. I'll call you when I know more, I said. And I left before they could say anything else. Before they could manipulate me back into compliance. Before I could convince myself that their fear was more important than my future. It was the first time I had ever chosen myself over them. And it terrified me. Finding a lawyer turned out to be harder than I expected. Not because there weren't lawyers. There were plenty. But most of them looked at my case and said the same thing, it was complicated. Family law was messy. Civil suits against parents were emotionally costly and financially risky. Did I really want to do this? Yes. No. Maybe. I didn't know. I met with 4 different lawyers over 2 weeks. 3 of them seemed like they were trying to talk me out of it, not maliciously, but like they were doing me a favor by suggesting I just let it go. Let my parents keep the money. Preserve the relationship. The 4th one was different. Her name was Catherine. She was in her 60s, had gray hair cut short, and she read through Sharon's financial analysis with the kind of attention that made me feel like someone was finally taking this seriously. This is textbook unjust enrichment, Catherine said when she finished. You transferred funds under a false premise. They accepted those funds knowing the premise was false. They enriched themselves at your expense. And you have documentation of all of it. What are my chances? I asked. Of winning? Strong. Probably 70-30 in your favor, depending on how aggressively your parents fight it. And if they fight it? Then we fight back, Catherine said simply. But I need to be honest with you about something. Even if you win, even if we get a judgment in your favor, your parents might not have $151,000 liquid to give you. They might have it in retirement accounts we can't touch. They might refuse to pay and you'd have to pursue wage garnishment or asset seizure. It gets ugly. It's already ugly, I said. This kind of ugly is different, Catherine said. This kind of ugly has lawyers involved in court dates and your parents sitting across from you while a judge decides who's right. She leaned back in her chair. I'm not trying to scare you away. I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're walking into. Because once we file, there's no taking it back. Not easily anyway. I thought about the graph. About my parents' savings account going up while mine stayed small. About my mom saying family means you contribute while she and my dad planned a European vacation on my dime. File it, I said. The papers were served to my parents on a Thursday. I knew because my mom called me that night, and her voice was different than I'd ever heard it. Not angry. Wounded. How could you do this? She asked. How could you take us to court? You took from me first, I said. We're your parents, she said, and she was crying. We raised you. We loved you. And now you're treating us like criminals. You lied to me for 7 years, I said. So yes. Right now, that's how I'm treating you. She hung up. My dad didn't call. Michael texted me, you okay? I wasn't okay. But I was doing it anyway. The discovery process was brutal. Catherine requested all of my parents' financial records for the past 7 years. Bank statements. Tax returns. Receipts. Everything. And my parents' lawyer, a man named Richard who seemed deeply uncomfortable with the whole situation, had to comply. That's when we found out about the second account. They had another savings account that my parents had opened specifically to deposit my transfers. Every single month, the $1,800 came in and sat there, untouched. It had accrued interest. It had grown to just over $165,000. Catherine called me when she found it. They created a dedicated account for your money, she said. Emma, that's not a gray area. That's not we needed help with bills and it happened to accumulate. That's premeditation. That's intentional. I felt something cold move through me. What does that mean for the case? I asked. It means we have a much stronger argument for damages. We can argue intentional financial exploitation. We might be able to push for a higher judgment, not just restitution, but actual damages. I don't want damages, I said. I just want my money back. The court might award you more, Catherine said. Whether you take it is up to you. The case moved forward. Depositions were scheduled. My parents had to sit down with Catherine and answer questions under oath about why they created the account. About why they lied about the roof. About why they never told me the money was being saved instead of spent. My mom's deposition was the hardest to listen to. She sat in that room in a gray blazer, hands folded in front of her, and she told the truth. Finally. We were scared, she said. My husband's job was unstable. We didn't have enough saved for retirement. We looked at Emma's income and we thought she could help. We thought she wouldn't miss it. You thought she wouldn't miss $1,800 a month? Catherine asked, not unkindly. We thought she'd understand that we needed her, my mom said. We thought family meant she would want to help. And there it was. The thing she'd been telling me my whole life, weaponized in real time. Family means you contribute. Family means you sacrifice. Family means you don't ask questions because asking questions means you don't love them. Did you ever consider asking her directly for help? Catherine asked. No, my mom said quietly. Because we were afraid she'd say no. That sentence hung in the air. The trial was scheduled for 6 weeks later. In those 6 weeks, I almost backed out 3 times. My parents sent me messages through Michael saying they wanted to work this out. My mom texted me apologies that felt performative. My dad sent a letter, an actual handwritten letter, saying that he understood I was hurt but that taking them to court was a betrayal of everything family meant. I read that letter in my apartment at midnight and I cried for the first time since this had started. Not because I felt guilty. But because I finally understood that my relationship with my parents was going to be fundamentally different now, no matter what happened in that courtroom. There was no version of this where I won and we all went back to normal. Catherine sat with me the night before the trial. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I'm about to destroy my family, I said. You're not destroying anything, she said. Your parents did that when they decided to lie to you. You're just holding them accountable for what they already did. It should have made me feel better. It didn't. But I went anyway. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Not like in movies. Just a regular room with wood paneling and a judge behind a desk and my parents sitting at a table across from me, not making eye contact. Catherine had prepared me for this. She'd told me what to expect, how to answer questions, where to look. But nothing really prepares you for seeing your parents as the other side of a legal dispute. The judge was a woman in her 70s named Judge Morrison. She had reading glasses on a chain and she looked tired, like she'd been seeing cases like this all week. Catherine presented our case first. The financial documents. The graph. The dedicated account. The lie about the roof. All of it laid out methodically, like a puzzle that only made sense when you could see all the pieces together. My parents' lawyer, Richard, tried to argue that this was a family matter, not a legal one. That I had willingly transferred the money. That my parents hadn't forced me. That I was an adult and I had choices. If the plaintiff had simply asked her parents about the money, they would have explained, Richard said. This situation could have been resolved with a conversation instead of litigation. Catherine stood up. The defendant created a separate account specifically designated to receive the plaintiff's transfers, she said. The defendant told the plaintiff the money was for household expenses when it was actually being saved. The defendant accepted $151,200 under false pretenses. That's not a family matter. That's fraud. The word hung in the courtroom like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. Fraud. My parents were being accused of committing fraud against me. I testified for 2 hours. Catherine asked me questions about when the transfer started. About what my parents told me the money was for. About what I'd discovered when I went to the accountant. And then Richard cross-examined me, trying to find holes in my story. Isn't it true, he asked, that you never actually asked your parents what the money was for? I said. They told me it was for household expenses. But you never independently verified that? No. So you took their word for it? Yes. Because they're my parents. And I watched Richard nod like I'd just confirmed something important, that I'd been foolish to trust them, maybe. That I'd made a choice and now I had to live with it. But Catherine stood back up. Mr. Harrison, she said, is it reasonable for an adult child to expect her parents to be truthful when they claim money is for household expenses? Objection, Richard said. Argumentative. The judge sustained it. But the point had been made. My parents didn't testify. Richard advised them not to. I don't know if that was the right call, but it meant they didn't have to sit in that chair and be questioned about why they lied. They didn't have to explain the Europe trip or the truck or the kitchen renovation. They just got to sit there and let the evidence speak for itself. The judge took a week to deliberate. During that week, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what would happen if we lost. If the judge decided this was just a family disagreement and I had no legal recourse. I kept thinking about what would happen if we won and my parents refused to pay. I kept thinking about the look on my mom's face in the courtroom, and whether she actually felt sorry or whether she was just sorry she got caught. Michael called me the night before the judgment. You doing okay? He asked. No, I said. Not even a little bit. You know this doesn't have to be the end, right? He said. Even if you win. Even if you get the judgment. You could still. I don't know. Reconcile somehow. How? I asked. How do you come back from this? I don't know, Michael said honestly. But I know that mom and dad are still your parents. And even if they screwed up massively, they're still the people who raised you. That doesn't just disappear. Maybe it should, I said. But I didn't mean it. Not really. I meant that I didn't know how to hold both things at once, the love I had for them and the betrayal I felt. The judgment came down on a Tuesday morning. Catherine called me at work. We won, she said. The judge ruled in your favor. Unjust enrichment. Full restitution plus interest. You're entitled to $167,400. I sat at my desk and didn't say anything. Emma? Are you there? Yeah, I said. I'm here. How do you feel? I don't know, I said, and it was true. I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. Your parents have 30 days to appeal, Catherine said. But my guess is they won't. The evidence was too strong. They'll probably negotiate a payment plan. A payment plan. So I'd get my money back in installments. From my parents. The same way I'd been giving it to them, just in reverse. That night, my mom texted me. Can we please talk? I almost didn't respond. But I did. Okay, I texted back. We met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. She looked smaller than I remembered, smaller and older. Like this whole thing had aged her. My dad didn't come. I think he was still too angry, or too ashamed, or both. We ordered coffee and we sat at a table by the window, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. I'm sorry, my mom said finally. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. Why did you do it? I asked. Why not just ask me? Because I was afraid, she said. I was afraid you'd say no. I was afraid it would mean you didn't love us. I was afraid that admitting we needed help would mean admitting we failed. She looked at her hands. So instead, I lied, she said. And I told myself it was okay because I was helping the family. Because family means you contribute. But that's not what family means, is it? No, I said. It's not. I don't know how to fix this, she said. I don't either, I said. And that was honest. We sat there drinking coffee and not knowing how to fix the thing we'd broken. My mom cried a little. I didn't. I was too tired to cry. Before we left, she told me something I didn't expect. Your brother called us, she said. After he found out about the court case. He was angry with us. He said we had no right to do to you what we'd tried to do to him. He said. She paused. He said if we didn't acknowledge what we'd done, he'd have to distance himself too. Michael said that? Not in those exact words. But yes. And he was right to say it. We put you both in an impossible position. We made you responsible for our fear, and that was wrong. I didn't know what to say to that. The money will start coming back to you next month, she said. A payment plan like the judge ordered. But I want you to know that we're also going to see someone. A therapist. To figure out why we thought this was okay. Okay, I said. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was just acknowledgement. And maybe that was the only thing we could do right now. We didn't hug when we left. We weren't there yet. Maybe we'd get there someday. Maybe we wouldn't. But at least now, we weren't lying to each other anymore. It's been 8 months since the judgment. The money is coming back to me. Not all at once. My parents are paying $2,200 a month, which means it'll take about 6 years for the full amount to be returned. It's strange receiving money from them now. Each transfer feels like a reminder of what happened, but also like a small acknowledgement that they're trying. I'm not going to tell you that we're fine now. We're not. My dad still hasn't called me. My mom and I text sometimes, but the easiest topics are the weather and neutral updates about family. The deep stuff, the trust, the history, the way I used to believe in them completely, that's still broken. But something shifted in me during all of this. Something that I don't think can be broken anymore because I learned how to protect it. I got pre-approved for the mortgage. With the money coming back and with what I'd managed to save, I'm eligible for a loan now. I'm not buying the condo I originally wanted, that dream got complicated when all of this happened. But I'm looking. I'm looking at places that are mine. Actually mine. Built on my money, my choices, my future. Michael and I are closer now. We talk about our parents differently, not with anger anymore, but with this weird kind of clarity. Like we finally understand each other in a way we didn't before. He told me that when he cut off contact with them years ago, he thought he was protecting himself. But he was also protecting them from consequences. He was letting them think it was okay. "I'm glad you didn't do that," he said. "I'm glad you made them face it." I don't know if I did it for them or for me. Probably both. Probably neither. Probably I just did it because I couldn't not do it anymore. There's a question I keep coming back to, though. And I think about it a lot when I'm alone in my apartment, looking at mortgage applications and thinking about what it means to build something that's genuinely mine. The question is, would I do it differently if I could go back? And the honest answer is, I don't know. If I went back, knowing what I know now, would I refuse to send the money in the first place? Probably. Would I confront them earlier? Definitely. Would I have saved myself 7 years of uncertainty and hurt? Yes. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night sometimes: if I went back and changed all of that, I wouldn't have learned what I learned. I wouldn't know what I'm capable of. I wouldn't know that I can stand up to the people I love most and say no. I wouldn't know that I can ask for help, real help, not shame disguised as family obligation. I wouldn't know that I'm stronger than I thought. And maybe that knowledge is worth something. Maybe it's worth more than the money, even though the money matters too. My therapist, yes, I got one too, asked me last week if I thought my parents were bad people. No, I said immediately. Do you think they did a bad thing? Yes. Absolutely. Can you hold both of those things at the same time? And I realized that's what I'm learning how to do. To love people and be angry at them. To forgive them and not forget. To understand their fear without letting it justify their choices. It's harder than I thought it would be. There's one more thing that happened that I haven't told anyone except Michael and Catherine. About 3 months ago, my dad texted me. Out of nowhere. He'd never texted me before. He'd always called or waited for me to reach out. The text said, "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not because of the lawsuit. Because I hurt you." I stared at that text for a long time. I didn't respond right away. But eventually, I did. I said, "I believe you." And that's when something shifted. Not forgiveness, I'm still not there. But something like acknowledgement. Like maybe we could eventually find our way back to something that resembles a relationship. My mom told me he's been in therapy. That he's been talking about his fear of failure, his anxiety about retirement, the way he'd internalized the idea that providing for his family meant controlling how his family provided for him. She said he cries sometimes when he talks about it. I don't know what to do with that information. It doesn't erase what he did. But it also means he's trying. And I think trying matters. So here's what I know now, and here's what I want to leave you with. Trust is easy when you're young. You trust the people who raise you because you don't have a choice. You believe what they tell you because they're the architects of your reality. But at some point, you have to decide whether you're going to keep that trust blindly, or whether you're going to demand that the people you love earn it. I demanded it. And it cost me everything. My relationship with my parents, my sense of safety, my ability to believe that family means what I thought it meant. But I also got something back. I got myself. I got clarity. I got the knowledge that I'm capable of standing alone if I have to. And I think that's the thing nobody tells you about confronting the people who hurt you. It's not about winning or getting your money back or being right. It's about reclaiming your own story. It's about saying, this is what happened to me, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't. I wonder sometimes if there are other people out there like me. People who've been accepting money or favors or conditional love from their families and telling themselves it's normal. People who've been questioning things in the back of their minds but pushing the questions down because asking them feels like betrayal. If you're that person, I want you to know something: you're allowed to ask. You're allowed to demand honesty. You're allowed to protect yourself, even from the people who raised you. It won't be easy. It won't feel good. But it will be true. And truth, I've learned, is worth more than comfort. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Emma's voice travels. Because maybe someone out there needed to hear this. Maybe someone is sitting in their apartment right now, looking at their bank statements, and finally asking the question they've been too afraid to ask. And if that's you, I want you to know that you're not alone. And you're not crazy for noticing. And you're not ungrateful for wanting better. You're just awake. And that's the hardest part.